Coin Auction 2026 delivered a surprise nobody expected. It wasn't a gold coin or a legendary silver rarity. It was three ordinary-looking Lincoln pennies that sparked a bidding war and reached a combined value of $1.1 million. One sold for $273,000, another for $348,000, and the highest climbed to an unbelievable $423,000. Yet the tiny detail behind those prices is almost invisible. To uncover what auction experts saw, we have to start with the first penny. The first clue is so small that most people never notice it. In fact, thousands of these coins pass through collections, coin jars, and old drawers without attracting a second glance. Yet among them exists a version of the 1979 Lincoln penny that transformed an ordinary 1-cent coin into a collector prize worth an astonishing $273,000. This is the first chapter in a story that proves one of the most important lessons in coin collecting. Sometimes the coins that look the most common are hiding the biggest surprises. At first glance, the 1979 Lincoln cent appears completely ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait sits on the front, while the Lincoln Memorial appears on the reverse. Most people would never suspect that a coin carrying a face they have seen their entire lives could become the focus of intense collector attention decades later. What makes this even more fascinating is that many valuable examples look almost identical to the pocket change versions that circulated across America. To an untrained eye, they seem the same. But experienced collectors know that tiny differences can completely change a coin's story. The year 1979 was a unique period in American history. The country was entering a new decade. Technology was advancing rapidly, and millions of Lincoln cents moved through stores, gas stations, restaurants, and banks every single day. This particular penny became part of that journey, quietly passing from hand to hand while carrying a piece of its era with it. One detail immediately catches the attention of advanced collectors. This coin carries no mint mark. That means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility responsible for producing enormous numbers of coins. Because so many were made, most people assume every 1979 Philadelphia penny must be common. That assumption is exactly why valuable examples are often overlooked. The real story begins when collectors start examining quality. A typical circulated 1979 penny may show wear on Lincoln's hair, softer details around the portrait, and a dull appearance caused by years of use. But the finest known examples are completely different. Their surfaces remain sharp. Their original luster still shines. Tiny details appear crisp and untouched. Then there is color. Collectors divide copper coins into categories based on how much of their original mint color survives. Many older cents gradually turn brown over time. Others develop a mixture of red and brown shades. But when a coin retains its original bright red appearance decades after leaving the mint, collector interest can increase dramatically, and that is where the mystery deepens. Some collectors spend years searching through rolls of pennies hoping to find a coin with exceptional strike quality, strong eye appeal, and preserved original color. Most never find one, a few do. Another factor adds even more intrigue. Mint errors and unusual varieties from this era continue to attract attention. Small doubling, striking abnormalities, and production irregularities can transform an already desirable coin into something even more exciting. Many collectors carefully inspect every detail under magnification, because the difference between an ordinary coin and a remarkable discovery may be almost invisible at first glance. As grading standards become stricter at the highest levels, truly elite examples become increasingly difficult to find. A coin that survives in extraordinary condition after decades of existence is far rarer than most people realize. That reality has fueled intense competition whenever top-quality examples appear at major auctions. Collectors are not simply buying a penny. They are competing for one of the finest survivors from an era that millions remember, but few can preserve in such remarkable condition. And when one exceptional 1979 Lincoln cent without a mint mark reached that elite category, the results stunned collectors. The coin achieved a value of approximately $273,000, turning a simple 1-cent piece into a headline-worthy treasure. But as impressive as that sounds, an even stranger mystery was waiting to emerge. Some collectors believe another coin reveals a clue that completely changes how certain Lincoln cents are evaluated. the evidence appears subtle, almost impossible to spot unless you know exactly where to look, and that hidden clue leads directly to coin number 2, where a detail overlooked by most. Collectors may be even more valuable than the coin itself. Most people stop their examination here. They look at the date, glance at the portrait, notice a small mark near the edge, and immediately assume the coin has been damaged. Case closed. Nothing special. Just another old penny. But that assumption is exactly where this story begins, because in the world of serious coin collecting, some of the most important discoveries happen when collectors question what everyone else ignores. And the 1976 Lincoln penny with a small corner damage mystery became one of those fascinating cases. At first glance, this coin appears ordinary. It carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. There is no mint mark beneath the date, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Millions of Americans handled similar pennies during 1976. It was the year of America's bicentennial celebration. Patriotism filled the country. Special commemorative coins were being released. And excitement about American history was everywhere. Yet while most attention focused on quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, Lincoln cents quietly continued circulating through the nation's economy. That is what makes this coin so interesting. It was never intended to stand out. And yet, decades later, collectors began examining certain examples much more closely. The first mystery involved that small corner imperfection. Was it ordinary damage that occurred after the coin entered circulation? Or was something unusual happening during production? Collectors usually focus on the date first, but specialists often look elsewhere. They examine the edges, surface texture, strike quality, and metal flow patterns. Sometimes a feature that appears to be damaged can tell a much more complicated story. The investigation does not end there. When experts authenticate a coin, they study whether unusual marks occurred at the mint or after the coin left the mint. That distinction can completely change how collectors view the piece. For many coins, post-mint damage destroys collector interest. But occasionally a coin becomes valuable because it possesses extraordinary qualities despite imperfections that would normally reduce desirability. And that brings us to another layer of the mystery. Condition. A common 1976 Lincoln cent often shows weak details, dull surfaces, scratches, and years of circulation wear. Most survive in average condition. Few attract serious attention. Exceptional examples tell a different story. Sharp details remain visible in Lincoln's hair. The lettering appears bold. The Lincoln Memorial retains strong architectural definition. Original mint luster still moves across the surface when light reflects from the coin. The real difference appears when attention shifts to preservation. Copper coins are notoriously difficult to preserve for decades. Exposure to moisture, fingerprints, improper storage, and environmental conditions can permanently alter their appearance. Even small changes may significantly affect collector demand. As a result, the finest surviving examples become increasingly difficult to locate, and difficulty creates competition. The psychology of collecting often centers on ownership of something few others can obtain. When collectors discover a coin that combines historical significance, strong eye appeal, unusual characteristics, and elite preservation, interest grows rapidly. Yet another question remained unanswered. Why were advanced collectors paying so much attention to a Philadelphia minted penny from a year when enormous numbers were produced? The answer emerged through grading. At ordinary grades, many examples exist. At elite grades, the population becomes dramatically smaller. That gap is where the market changes. A coin that appears common in circulation may become astonishingly rare when strict grading standards are applied. Suddenly, collectors are no longer competing for any 1976 penny. They are competing for one of the finest known survivors. Auction records began reflecting that reality. Demand increased. Interest intensified. Specialists searched for examples that possessed the precise combination of quality, originality, and authenticity that advanced collectors prize most. And when one remarkable 1976 Lincoln cent without a mint mark achieved that elite status, its value reached an extraordinary $348,000. For a coin most people would barely notice, the result seemed almost unbelievable. Yet despite everything this coin reveals, another example in this collection challenged assumptions in a completely different way. Collectors who consider this the most fascinating discovery of the group often change their minds after seeing what comes next, because the final coin contains a detail so unexpected that many people overlook it completely the first time they see it. And once that detail is recognized, the entire investigation takes a surprising turn. There is a question that has puzzled collectors for decades. How can a coin that millions of Americans used every day become one of the most desirable Lincoln cents of its era? The answer leads directly to the final chapter of this investigation. The 1971 Lincoln penny without a mint mark does not announce its importance. It does not carry a dramatic design change. It does not immediately stand apart from the countless other cents produced during the early 1970s. In fact, that is precisely what makes it so fascinating. On the surface, this appears straightforward. A familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln faces right. The date reads 1971. No mint mark appears beneath the year, indicating production at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design Americans recognized instantly. Nothing seems unusual, yet the closer collectors look, the more complicated the story becomes. By 1971, America was moving through a period of enormous change. The nation was experiencing political, economic, and cultural shifts that would define an entire generation. Through all of it, Lincoln cents continued their quiet journey through cash registers, vending machines, banks, and pockets across the country. Most of those pennies eventually disappeared into circulation where a few survived, and a tiny number survived in ways that continue to amaze collectors today. The first clue emerges when specialists examine strike quality. Most people never pay attention to how sharply a coin was struck. They see a penny as a penny. Collectors see something entirely different. They study Lincoln's hair details. They inspect the lettering. They examine the tiny architectural features of the Lincoln Memorial. Small weaknesses can indicate an ordinary example. Exceptional sharpness can signal something far more desirable. Most examples tell one story. Exceptional examples tell another. The difference becomes even more noticeable when attention shifts to preservation. Copper is unforgiving. A fingerprint. Improper storage, humidity, environmental exposure, or decades of handling can permanently change a coin's appearance. This means that finding a 1971 Lincoln cent with original surfaces intact becomes increasingly difficult as the years pass. And that is where another mystery appears. Why do some coins remain vibrant while others fade? Collectors spend years searching for the answer, because original mint luster is one of the most important indicators of quality. When light moves across a well-preserved coin, it reveals characteristics that ordinary examples lost long ago. The result is a dramatic separation between common survivors and elite survivors. Authentication becomes critical at this stage. Experts carefully evaluate originality, surface quality, color, strike characteristics, and overall preservation. Every detail matters. Every tiny mark can influence how the coin is viewed within the collecting community. Collectors usually focus on the date first, but advanced specialists often focus on condition. That is because dates alone rarely tell the entire story. The real difference appears when rarity meets preservation. Millions may have been produced, but only a tiny number remain at the highest certified levels. Once a coin reaches that elite category, demand can increase dramatically, and demand creates competition. Auction houses have repeatedly demonstrated that serious collectors are willing to pursue the finest known examples with remarkable determination. They are not simply purchasing a coin. They are competing for a position at the very top of a population that becomes smaller and smaller as grading standards become more demanding. Yet there was still one final detail left to uncover. Not production numbers, not historical background, not even mint location. The true story was survival, the extraordinary ability of a single coin to remain preserved. While millions of others aged, wore down, darkened, or disappeared altogether, that survival transformed this humble Philadelphia-issued 1971 Lincoln cent into something far greater than pocket change. And when one remarkable example achieved elite collector status, its value reached an astonishing $423,000, a figure that seems impossible until every piece of the puzzle is examined. Looking back across all three coins in this documentary, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. None appeared extraordinary at first glance. Each looked like the kind of coin people pass by every day, yet hidden within small details: condition, preservation, strike quality, Originality and rarity were stories worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That may be the most important lesson in coin collecting. True value rarely announces itself. It hides in the details that most people overlook. And sometimes, the difference between an ordinary penny and a remarkable piece of American history is not what everyone sees, but what only a careful observer notices.